The night flames swallowed my grandfather's barn. Neighbors whispered it was an accident, but I knew better. I saw the silhouette of a white Mercedes fleeing down the road, vanity plate glinting under firelight. The driver thought she'd destroyed a stubborn old man. What she didn't know was who I really was. The land was supposed to be my refuge. After decades on the federal bench, handing down sentences to corrupt officials, I craved silence more than anything. My 47 acres promised that silence. Rolling cornfields, the soft rustle of leaves, and a barn built by my grandfather's weathered hands. That barn wasn't just wood and nails. It was family history, every beam cut from Iowa oak, every corner soaked in the sweat of generations. The smell of dried corn, tobacco, and old timber clung to it like memory itself. To me, it was a living monument, one I swore I'd preserve. Mornings began with the steady hum of an old John Deere, evenings with the amber glow of sunsets over endless rows of corn. My nearest neighbor sat a quarter-mile away. For the first time in years, I believed I'd finally found peace. That illusion shattered the morning I heard the staccato click of high heels on my gravel driveway. I looked up from the tractor to see a woman in a cream business suit, clipboard in hand, eyes locked on my barn like it had personally offended her. "Mr. Brennan," she announced, voice dripping with artificial sweetness. "I'm Brenda, president of the Millfield Estates HOA. We need to discuss your agricultural structure." Her words were sharp, her smile sharper. Brenda Kilpatrick radiated the kind of authority people mistake for power. At 5'6", polished in designer clothes and a bleached smile, she carried herself like a queen inspecting her kingdom. I told her plainly. My barn was grandfathered in, my land exempt from her suburban rules. Her smile tightened, eyes darkened. "Mr. Brennan, property values depend on certain standards. That eyesore," she gestured at my barn, "threatens everyone's investment." That was our first clash, but it wouldn't be our last. One morning, a jittery code officer named Dale showed up, clutching a clipboard like a shield. 14 complaints in 7 days, against a barn older than his entire department. He stammered through the list, sweat glistening as I photographed every page. Poor man was being used like a pawn. The neighbors whispered too. Fines for basketball hoops. Penalties for chalk drawings on sidewalks. Community standards, Brenda called them. What I saw was a reign of petty tyranny. I wasn't angry yet. Instead, I was calculating. After 27 years on the federal bench, I knew abuse of authority when I smelled it. Brenda was testing me. And with every bogus complaint, she was tightening the rope around her own neck. Karen didn't stop at harassment. She escalated like a villain in a legal thriller. A lawsuit landed in my mailbox, accusing my barn of being a structural hazard and demanding demolition plus damages. I laughed out loud. After decades reviewing frivolous cases, this one belonged in a comedy skit. But she wasn't playing for laughs. She weaponized utilities, my power mysteriously cutting out, water pressure vanishing, inspectors showing up at odd hours. Then came the smear campaign. Letters to the editor painting me as a dangerous recluse. Rumors in town about suspicious activity on my land. What she didn't expect was the ripple effect. Neighbors, long bullied into silence, started approaching me. A veteran fined for his motorcycle. A widow punished for hanging laundry. A single mom threatened over a garden gnome. Each story added fuel to the fire she'd lit. Brenda thought she was isolating me. What she was really doing was building my case. It happened at 3:17 a.m. I woke to the acrid stench of smoke. Out the window, an orange glow devoured the night sky. My grandfather's barn, 70 years of heritage, was engulfed in flames. I stumbled outside, barefoot, choking on ash, watching the structure collapse beam by beam. The fire crackled like applause, celebrating my loss. Memories burned with it. Family harvests, tools my grandfather carved by hand, the scent of old tobacco woven into the wood. Neighbors arrived, wide-eyed, whispering accident. But I saw the fresh tire tracks in the dirt. My security camera confirmed it. A white Mercedes with the license plate horn 1 creeping past minutes before the blaze. I stood in pajamas, fists clenched, rage sharpening into something colder. This wasn't grief anymore, it was fury with purpose. And here's what Brenda never knew. I wasn't just a retired man with a barn. I was Judge Thaddeus Brennan, the same judge who'd sent county commissioners and crime lords to prison for decades. Brenda Kilpatrick hadn't just burned a barn. She'd declared war on the wrong man. By sunrise, I was on the phone with federal contacts. Michael Chun, once my law clerk, now a feared civil rights attorney, agreed to join me. The FBI agent I called didn't hesitate. Land fraud and harassment rings had been surfacing across the Midwest. As evidence piled up, the picture sharpened. Brenda wasn't just a petty tyrant. She and her husband were quietly buying surrounding farmland through shell companies, planning a massive development project worth millions. My land was the final piece. But here's the beauty of corruption. It leaves a trail. Her emails to county officers, her financial records, even recordings of her veiled threats. Piece by piece, I built the kind of airtight case I used to preside over. And I wasn't alone. Neighbors once terrified of her clipboard began lining up to testify. Her empire, built on fear, was about to collapse under the weight of truth. The showdown came at the HOA's monthly meeting. The community center overflowed. Neighbors, reporters, even curious onlookers crammed shoulder to shoulder. Brenda strutted to the podium in a navy Armani suit, confident as ever. She opened her mouth to denounce baseless harassment. That's when I rose, carrying a folder thick enough to stop a bullet. Agent Kowalski from the FBI stood beside me, badge gleaming. I projected evidence on the wall. Shell companies, kickback payments, harassment logs, recordings of Brenda's own voice offering bribes. Gasps rippled through the room. Her face drained of color. She sputtered denials, but the FBI moved in. Handcuffs clicked around her wrists. The crowd erupted. Some in cheers, some in stunned silence. For years, Brenda had ruled with fear. That night, her empire crumbled in front of the very people she once intimidated. Justice, I realized, is sweetest when it's public. 6 months later, a new barn rose from the ashes, built by neighbors who refused to let Brenda's destruction be the final word. Veterans donated labor, families brought food, Amish craftsmen raised beams with bare hands. What she tried to erase had become a symbol of unity. Brenda served 12 years in federal prison after pleading guilty to racketeering and fraud. Her husband's company collapsed, their empire dismantled. Meanwhile, Millfield Estates elected a new board, led by Marcus Rodriguez, one of the neighbors she'd tormented. Transparency, fairness, and community replaced fear. I stood in the field one evening, listening to hammers echoing like a heartbeat. My grandfather's spirit seemed to linger, whispering approval. Brenda thought she'd silenced me. Instead, she awakened the judge I'd once been. Some people never learn, but predators like her always forget one truth: justice doesn't retire.